Hello everyone, thank you for coming out to the talk today about OpenHatch. I have with me Asheesh Laroia, who is the co-founder of OpenHatch. He's also a former Google Summer of Code mentor from 2008, where he worked with the Creative Commons project. He left Creative Commons to co-found OpenHatch with Raphael Krut-Landau. The two of them, who's right here, the two of them met while they were in college together at Johns Hopkins University. Raphael works on the user interface for OpenHatch. So both of them traveled here today from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So please join me in welcoming Laroia and Raphael.
So I'm here to tell you guys some things on the topic of how you can be involved in open source and how your projects can get more people. So I have some questions I want to structure this around. First of all, if you don't know what you want to work on, how can you become a contributor to a project, find a project that needs you, and find issues to tackle in that project that tickle you enough to keep you going? That's what you're a core developer there. As a product maintainer, how can you attract new people and make sure that the work you're giving them is actually something they want to do and that they can do? And then how, as sort of long-standing contributors, how can we tell our story to the community and say what we've worked on and find new things to work on based on that? So I'm asking these questions, I admit, because we have some ideas of our own. So I'll say the suggestions from us, how you can use our website to do it. But I want to hear from you guys what your experiences have been, if you think what we're showing you is useful, and how you might imagine yourself using it. So Raphael will talk a bit about how you might find.
Oh, hey, thanks, Asheesh. Yes, this is my favorite part of the website. So I was just talking to Chris earlier, a few minutes ago, and so I think Chris is a kind of perfect example of what we want to talk about. I think he's a talented developer here at Google, but you haven't had much open source experience, and you're sort of beginning to think about, well, how do I get involved? So the first part of our talk, we're gonna be looking at, well, what's the onboarding process like? Like, what's it like to kind of arrive on the internet and say, well, I like making software. I use open source software, and I want to be a part of this kind of world, this culture. Where do I begin? So we're going to show you a tool we've built to make this hopefully a little bit easier. So suppose I'm Chris, and I arrive at the OpenHatch front page, which you see here. So the first thing I want to do is, me see, what are some volunteering opportunities that OpenHatch has for me here. So here's the next screen, and this is our volunteer opportunity finder. And what you'll discover here are, it's mostly bugs, but we also have documentation requests and other kinds of requests for help. And this is from across a lot of open source, so a lot of different projects here. So this is a kind of good place to begin if you're not really sure what project you want to work on. You might, for example, have in mind a particular language that you know, or a particular kind of project you want to work on. Okay. And so what we're trying to do is sort of connect you who has information about you, what you know about your interests, you know about your skills. You don't necessarily know what project out there is going to be useful for you. So we're trying to bridge the gap there. So take a look at this page. On the left, we have bugs in different languages. The second column lists different projects, so the way to explore the database. But one thing I want to look at right now is this third column, toughness, and underneath I see that there's this link called bite size. So what do we mean by bite size? Well, there are many projects in open source who've decided that they want to make life easier for newcomers. So they go through their bug trackers and they identify bugs that are appropriate for newcomers. So, for example, a bug like this is a good way to kind of get a feel for how the project works, sort of learn the ropes. It's not a very big, intimidating bug. It's maybe one that you can solve in a day or a few days, and it's supposed to be a sort of rewarding, engaging bug for newcomers. And I don't mean necessarily newcomers to open source, but sometimes it's just good for newcomers to the project. Maybe you're moving from project A to project B. So we sort of collected as many of these bugs as we can find. So I'm going to click on that link, and we scroll down the page, and you'll see the most recently indexed bite-sized bugs from across open source. You can see there's a variety of projects here. There's about 1,500 total open bite-sized bugs right now. But I'm thinking, well, this is a lot of stuff. Let me drill down. Let me get more specific here about what I want. So let me go back up to the top of the page and let me pick a language that I know, like Python. And here I see that there's just under 200 bite-sized bugs in Python. And if you look under where it says projects, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of projects. And so one of them catches my eye, I suppose, like Twisted. This is a framework for developing high-performance networking software. Now, maybe I don't know that. Maybe I'm just kind of browsing. So I click on Twisted, and I see that there are 33 bite-sized bugs in the Twisted project. So I can keep exploring. Let me scroll down the page, and I see that there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. So I can explore this bug about dependencies, for instance. And the whole idea is that we're going to try to push you out to a position where you can begin solving the bug. So, for example, there's a link here so you can go to the original bug tracker. So, I can click that. And here I am at the Twisted bug tracker. And here I can learn more about the bug, when it was filed. And let me go back to the OpenHatch Volunteer Opportunity Finder and see what other resources we have for this new contributor who wants to learn more about Twisted. So let's go back. Here's that bug we were looking at. And on the left, there's this link that says more about this project. So let me check that out. So this is our Twisted project page. And what I see here is a variety of different stuff that OpenHatch has got that concern Twisted. So on the right here, I see that there's this button that says I want to help. When I mouse over it, it's quite, it's a bit more specific. If you click this button, you can add yourself to a list of people who want to contribute. We'll talk a bit more about this button later, but it's one of our newest and I think one of our more exciting features. Let me scroll down the page a little bit more, and you'll see that OpenHatch has sort of started a discussion forum going, and we've seeded these discussion forums with questions that we think are really important and that are not really being asked enough. So, for example, this question says, well, how can I pitch in if I don't want to write code today, or if I don't know how to write code? What is there to do? And of course, there's tons of things to do in open source projects that don't involve code, like answering questions, managing bugs as they come in and categorizing them, explaining how the software works. Open source projects don't just need good technical people, they need great writers, they need good explainers, they need good people with good social skills who can kind of manage the project, organize meetups and things like that. And you can see one of our contributors has come in and lovingly prepared a great deal of information about Twisted and how to get involved as a non-code contributor. So now I'm going to look over at the other side of the page, and I see that there's a list of other contributors. So let me go see who's on this project. And if I click that button, I'm taken to the OpenHatch people page. And on this page, I see that there's a variety of people who contribute to Twisted. Of course, this isn't remotely a comprehensive list. This is just people who've signed up for OpenHatch and also who contribute to Twisted. And one of the nice things about this page is here you can figure out whether or not there are people who work on the project who live in your area. Because if you're looking for an open source project, it's a pretty nice thing to be able to go and actually hang out with a real human being, in the flesh and have a drink together or something like that. So, suppose I live in San Francisco, I can scroll up the page, and there's this field here that says, search for people in the project Twisted, and I can search near a particular location. And lo and behold, here's someone who lives in my area and who works on this project. And we'll show you a little bit later about how you can contact people so you can kind of get the ball rolling and say, hey, you want to get together and talk about this project? I'm kind of new, but maybe you can show me how it all works. And I think that a lot of people in open source find that these are the most valuable moments they have when participating in the community. So we're trying to make more of those kinds of moments happen. All right, so we have this tool. But what's actually new about this? Well, the first thing is that this is the only way you can search for bugs across projects. And so really this is a good place to come if you want to get involved but you don't really know exactly what project you want to work on. Secondly, I think that a lot of bug trackers are they're quite well designed sometimes for people who are already in the project. So if you look at the bug tracker, there's a lot of data on every bug tracker page about all the open bugs and what needs to be done. But to make it more efficient, it's lots of jargon. And if you're a newcomer, a lot of that jargon can kind of turn you off, and it can be the reason you don't participate. We've tried to make this volunteer opportunity finder intelligible for people who are not aware of this jargon. I think that hopefully this can make a bit of a difference and create a more friendly atmosphere for newcomers. And finally, one cool feature is that you can find people who live in your neighborhood, which is very nice. So the next part is something that Asheesh is excited about. I know he wants to come out and talk about it.
Yeah. So I think that as someone who works on a project and is a maintainer, like you said you work on Clojure, you might want to help people join your project. And so somebody who has a lot in open source might come to the OpenHatch site and start at this link, document your open source contributions, where we say you can put your story together and import the projects you've worked on into your profile. So let's say I'm Will, who maintains Miro and PyBlossom, two big Python projects. Let's say I start here and sign in with my Google account or other OpenID, and I'll end up at the portfolio editor, where I can, upon clicking here, start entering in my identifiers like my GitHub username, the usernames I've used to commit to Subversion repositories, email addresses I've used in version control systems, and then we'll slowly start to import those things from across the web. And once we do that, we'll give you a space to write about your project and what you've done for it. And Will has written a lot in that box, but the most important thing is the last sentence, where he writes, I do a lot of work for Miro. So upon saving this, he'll go back to his profile and see Miro in his own profile as one of the projects he's worked on. But from here, he might click on the Miro link and find out, what is this OpenHatch thing about? How can it help me get people to my project? And right here, we see there's an I want to help button that Rafi mentioned just a moment ago. And that's something that new contributors can click on, assuming they find the OpenHatch page for Miro. He's answered some of these questions, like how to contribute in other ways than writing code. Miro is a big desktop, rich, beautiful video application. And so it runs on Windows, Mac OS, and GNU Linux, and he needs testers on all those platforms. So he's written a note about that here. But I want to draw your attention to this question at the bottom, which is something that I thought would be really interesting to ask project maintainers, and something I wish people ask me. What's something I haven't been working on because I don't want to think about it? So in my case, I maintain a package called Alpine in Debian, and there's a patch somebody has written that's not properly licensed, but everyone wants it in Debian. And it adds this very useful feature, which is reading mailed or email spools. Very useful if you use Alpine on a system administered by a dovecot using sysadmin. But that's me. So there's actually a bunch of people on the bug, but it's really tough for me to solve that problem. So I wrote about it here. And if someone else comes by to the site and finds the OpenHatch project page, they might say, oh, yeah, I could write that. And this is the only place that there is to say what stresses you out, not just what needs to be done. But Will is interested in getting more people onto this project. So what he's going to do is pull out this I want to help button. There's a link that says you can embed the I want to help button inside your own site. So he can just click there, grab the source code, copy it to his clipboard, and go out to the Miro website, find the wiki for Miro, and add this I want to help button to his wiki. When new contributors find that button and click it, it'll take them to OpenHatch and say, hey, if you sign in and tell us about yourself, we'll add you to the list of people who want to help. And that's exactly what is written on the wiki. So this is kind of new. First of all, Will has been able to build this portfolio of projects he's worked on. He's imported stuff from Launchpad and Olo and other resources automatically. But once people click this button, if they do, we can talk about that in a minute, he can reach out to them knowing what those people know. So if you click this button to make a profile on OpenHatch, you can say, I want to write in French. And if there's work that needs to be done that way, Will know. And by adding these people to this list of prospective contributors, we show them right on top of the current contributors. So it makes them feel like part of the community already. And I actually think, so at OpenHatch, we've had a source code, etc. link on the website sitting at the bottom. We talk about how it's an AGPL v3 project, you can get the source. We only got one person on the IRC channel interested in that. And then we added this I want to help button, and we've had 11 button clicks over the time, and we had 3 more people on the IRC channel who've asked us to help us get the source and let it build on Arch Linux and other systems that we don't support, well, that we don't run. So I'm actually seeing, very anecdotally, a big uptake in interest just from people who click the button and then think, oh, well, I clicked the button, then I could probably do something. So I want to have Rafi talk a little more, pardon me, about what happens then.
Hey, I'm just going to continue the story of Will, the project maintainer who works on Miro, and I'm going to show you a bit more concretely about how you could use that I want to help button to make your project bigger. So here we are back at the Miro page, and on the right-hand side of the page, I see that there's someone who's clicked on that button, Matthew. So let me go check out his profile and see, maybe he can help. On the left-hand side of Matt's profile, talks a bit about what he knows. He knows some computer languages. He also knows some natural languages. And they say he knows Russian, and that kind of gets me thinking, well, hey, Miro is this big TV distribution platform, and we have a bunch of Russian users, and we're about to come up with a new release. We really actually could use someone to translate our release notes into Russian. So I can. So now I'm thinking, well, I want to contact Matt, so I can send him an email and just say like, hey, I saw on OpenHatch you know how to write Russian, and I saw you're interested in helping Miro. Well, actually, we have something for you to do. So that's one way you can use that button. You don't have to go through the button. You can just search for people outright. So here's our kind of people page, and see a big map of everyone on the site. And if you like, you can search for keywords. So let's say you want to do some Mac testing. You don't have time to do it yourself, but you're interested in maybe someone else out there is willing to pitch in with some of their Mac skills. So it turns out there's a few people, and you can if you click this button and this link in the middle of the page, you can see people who've specifically said that they can pitch in with their Mac skills. Not just that they know something about it, but that they're actually willing to help you out with their Mac skills. So here here's someone who knows a bit about Mac and is willing to help you. And you can go to his profile, and here he's mentioned that you can email him. So I'm thinking, well, we have this kind of Craigslist style email forwarder, so people can feel free to share their contact information. Here Will's typing up an email to Andy saying, hey, if you're willing to help, we've got something for you to do. So that's just one other way you can use the tool. I think that's your slide. So I think, the first few things you've talked about.
Great. Yeah, so Raphael was talking about how you can get people to test your software on a Mac or write up release notes in Russian. But I really want to hammer on this point that open source projects are about more than just code. So when you think about open source projects, you think of all these attributes, right? You think of software that's beautiful, fully tested, super easy to use, and has flawless documentation. So when these are true, it's because of effort, huge amount of effort by the developers, but also by other people, not necessarily coders. You can reach out to people who use your application and say, hey, would you download the latest release? Maybe then we can find some of these bugs before it's too late, before the real users, who aren't my friends, see it. Maybe you can reach out to people, like Rafi said, to write documentation and help people know how to use the product. So I just want to take this moment to implore you guys, using OpenHatch or not, if you run an open source project, reach out to these people. Ask for help, and you'll find that if there's something you want done that isn't code, there's probably a user that's willing to do it. So another question that we've gotten is this list of helpers right on the corner. why don't we just make a email list, a mailman list or something of people. You can blast out a message and say, dear 1,000 people, would you please write me some release notes in Russian? Well, in Rafi's example, the Russian example is sort of opportunistic. He finds someone willing to help in that way. So he targets something at that person. If you know how people can help you, you can ask them especially to do something they can do. Also, there's something nice about being personally invited to work on something. Receiving a one-on-one email is a lot nicer than a mail to a big mailing list, and you're actually more likely to do it. And finally, if nobody answers, it's okay. No one will know. There's no public archive of me emailing Matt Diegelbaum. But there is a public archive of me emailing a giant helpers list, so it'll be sad to look over that archive months later. I mean, and it's actually, this is sad on the Debian mentors list. We have all these excited new prospective Debian developers, and they have packages that they want someone to look at, and there's just such an influx of requests, and half of the time, it's a good discussion. It's like, you didn't do this correctly, you did this right, but you could do even better if you comply with a new format. That's the best case. But the worst case, which happens half of the time, is no answer. And that's just no fun to look at in the archives. So I want to take a minute to reflect about where OpenHatch is right now, and then talk a bit about where we'll take this. So by the numbers, we have more than 200 projects whose bite-sized bugs we index. And that's projects with bite-sized bugs that are good for newcomers, not just bugs at all. We have almost 1,000 members, and they come from every continent. You might be thinking, Antarctica's a continent. And there's a user who says he's from Antarctica. Actually, when we discovered, this triggered a bug in our map renderer. We didn't really expect that to happen. We needed to make the map taller to allow room for that place on the south. There's dozens of projects that have started conversations about how you can help out, and dozens more people who've clicked the I want to help button to say they want to help out a project. And this is just like 163 days, a little less than 5.5 months of OpenHatch. So we have a bunch of big projects participating, but I really want to, part of why I'm here is to have you guys, like, maybe we can index your bug trackers and help you find ways to get more people involved. I really want to boost this, not just in quality, but in quantity, to get more projects reaching out. The real power of the Volunteer Opportunity Finder is if anyone can go to it and click a few times and narrow the whole open source world down into how they can contribute and what they can do. So this right now is a big ball of code in Django, and it's running on just one virtual machine, and that worked out really well until they got slashdotted, and everything collapsed in out-of-memory disaster. So now we do a lot more caching, and we can get by pretty well on just one VM. We'll see how things go. I say all that because I'm happy to say that it doesn't take a huge amount of overhead to run this site. And the back-end code, most of the exciting stuff is scraping data out of bug trackers or code hosting sites, like to aggregate the profile information. And a bunch of bug trackers do have APIs, but I think the only bug tracker type, for all the bug trackers that we index, Bugzilla, Track, and Roundup, and Launchpad, most of them have APIs, but we actually scrape the pages of 3 out of those 4 because there's some information not in the API. And also, we have a nice series of tests that means that when we break stuff, we usually know pretty soon. So the future, right, we want more bugs in the Volunteer Opportunity Finder. We are working on getting local meetups. So Rafi talked about finding a project where you reach out to someone who lives near you and say, hey, I want to join Twisted, come to Super Happy Dev House or something with me. But something we want to do is get meetups of new contributors saying, hey, a dozen of us live in Philadelphia and we all want to do something. We don't really know what. Let's all sit down together, get our laptops, and browse this thing and find something. And that's something we're going to be doing the next couple weeks in Philly. We also, as I said, are here to talk with contributors and project maintainers and find out how this matches what you want and what new contributors might like on top of this. And there's a lot of maintenance work to do, as always. So the team is Rafi and me working on this about half time. But we do have, as I said, 11 people who clicked "I want to help" on the site. And that's just such it gives me such warm fuzzies to know that people are excited by what we do. And I think that fighting this sort of fear of isolation in open source, I hope OpenHatch does a whole lot and makes a big impact to make a lot of people happier and helps people find projects to work on. But if all we do is have product maintainers feel less lonely because people click this button, I think that's huge. Burnout is enormous in Debian and all the other projects I've worked on. So, but as I said, we've had these 3 or 4 people, 3 recently and 1 in the past, have local installs of the site and work on generating patches. And we have, thankfully, a Google Summer of Code student who was accepted on Monday. Yay. And epic yay, the Google Summer of Code student. So, John Stumpo and I came up with this idea of adding training missions to OpenHatch. So, in order to participate in open source, there's a bunch of skills you need to know. You might need, for example, to know how to use patch. People say things on the how to contribute page, like, oh, it's easy to sign up for a project. Just join our IRC channel, or send a patch in the bug tracker, or make a format patch file using Git. And to a bunch of people, these all seem very reasonable. But that's not actually the majority of prospective contributors. A lot of people haven't ever used IRC, even though they're good programmers. That's not really related. And many people haven't used diff. Many people haven't used Git format patch. So we sort of, in open source, we end up accidentally excluding people from the community by using this jargon and forgetting that there's different kinds of people who don't have the same experience we do, who can totally help out if we reach out to them. But it's not like every product maintainer wants to sit down with every prospective contributor and teach them how to use IRC. That's often why they say, if you can figure it out, great. Otherwise, I don't care. But robots might care. So what we're going to build is these automated agents on the site that you can enable for yourself and say, I want to learn about, let's say, tarballs. I want to know how to make a patch file. So we'll give you a training mission that says, take these 2 files, unpack them with this command right here, no mysteries, and make me a unified diff and upload it to OpenHatch. And if it actually is a unified diff, not a context diff, we'll say great. And if you made a mistake, we'll identify, in some cases, the mistake you've made and say, that was a context diff, you did pass -u. These are the kinds of things that annoy project maintainers, and the kinds of things that robots can teach people. So, yeah, and I'm really looking forward to these training missions. We have some planned out for subversioning Git and making tarballs. I mean, it's only very recently I've actually memorized the command syntax to making a tarball. There's all this arcana that we can teach people automatically if they interact with this thing. So that's going to be possible thanks to Google Summer of Code, and hopefully we'll have an even more excited announcement at the end of the summer saying, well, no, hopefully other people will be blogging on their own sites about how they learned these tools without bothering product maintainers. So it's really important as a community that we listen to new contributors and listen to what they find difficult to do and pay attention to where they drop off. And so that's really the core focus of OpenHatch as a project and as a website. And I want to just conclude with a few highlights, thanks, and get your feedback. This is really crucial. Open source projects live and die based on more than just code. They live and die based on the feelings of the people working on it, as I seem to be smiling about people clicking on my I want to help button. And they also live and die based on if anyone knows about the project. And that's something that speakers or writers of any natural language can help you with. And so you can help get more people contributing to your project. You can, on your own bug tracker, independent from OpenHatch, that's where you can label bite-sized bugs. And if you want to import them, there's an edit link on the OpenHatch search page that says add a bug tracker, and we give you a form to fill out. And for the prospective new contributors here, I sort of discovered this a few years ago, and it's something not a lot of users of open source discover, which is that you can be contributing to the software you're using. And that feels pretty great. So we want that to happen more. And as a developer, you can reach out to your users, help know what they can do, and then bring them in. So thanks to Ellen for bringing us here. The website art you see, the cartoons on the people page, those are drawn by Karen Rustad. She will be joining the Berkeley School of Information in a few months, I guess. And Nelson Pavlovsky is this invisible link that is how Rafi and I met at Hopkins, and he helped bring us out of our other lives into this new life at OpenHatch. And of course, thanks to the people who use the site and let us know what they like. So this is how you can contact us, and I want to know what you guys think and what would be useful here. Thanks. Rafi's, in the beginning, Rafi was described as working on user experience, but a lot of people code, this site is us pair programming and collaborating a lot, so it's not just UI. We're both pretty core on the code. Yeah. Yeah.
So one question is whether you support the Google project hosting in code.google.com.
Right. We don't have an importer for it right now, just because we haven't found any projects that label buzzwords inside on it. But it's pretty easy for us to export data from it, so add your project and we'll write the backend. But we, as I said, we do really prioritize projects that label buzzwords like that.
Right. And the other thing is, how are you trying to solicit people to come as contributors? Because I was talking with some friends who are faculty at UC Merced.
Yeah.
And they're a university out in the middle of Central Valley, and so they don't have a lot of high tech around, and they keep wondering how they're going to get their students enough experience. And this actually seems like a great way to get their students a chance to actually start doing real development in the outside world, so they have something to show on their resume.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how you get faculty at small colleges to know about this, so they can find their students there.
One thing that we've been doing is working with a group called Teaching Open Source that's primarily based out of the Fedora project at Red Hat. And they've been reaching out to universities and running so-called POSSE events. I can't remember what it stands for, but basically they get professors to run a semester course teaching students about open source. And they've actually written a textbook as of a few weeks ago. So I guess to answer the specific question about Mercer, is that right? Merced. Like have that person, that professor and teaching open source that org need to meet up. And they can do that, you can do that by them emailing me or them going to the site. Probably better to do it by email in case they forget. Yeah, I think that students are really valuable. Like students are a huge population that could use the site. But I think it's also important to remember that so many other people can too.
There's a website, an organization I'm trying to find the name of, because I don't remember right now, that maintains a bunch of mailing lists related to getting women and underrepresented communities into not just open source, but technology in general.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to track down the name and the URL and send it to you, because they're eager to find out about things around open source that they can spread the word to their community about.
Yeah, that's so great. We should. I can't wait.
Good.
We like the representative. It's in tech as a whole. Women are about 20 to 30% of employed tech workers, and in open source it's 2%, maybe 1, depending on what you do to study. And that's just tragic because we're just leaving on the floor huge numbers of prospective contributors. And I think a lot of that has to do with how the way people learn about open source is mostly through friend networks. And the way that you gain these skills, like knowing how to use patch, knowing how to use these version control skills, it's from in-person interactions with people. And so, to speak in the most grandiose language possible, I hope the robots help us get more women in open source. Yes. And of all kinds of people too. I mean, there's the diversity problems in open source. Women are just the most obvious category of missing people. Yeah. So especially, I'd be interested to if there's people there who do have some open source experience, And in the women in technology groups, we can really help them tell us what would help them the most.
Okay. It's good too, because the group has sub-lists specifically for small community colleges, regional schools, etc.
Yeah.
With the idea being that the tech community needs to reach beyond the big population centers.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
now I just have to find it.
I guess just a comment that, you know, I really like the UI that you have. It's just on the site. It's really easy to use. It's very clear, especially because you're trying to attract new people. So from that perspective, it's just really easy, simple to use and navigate through and kind of find what you're looking for. So I'm really impressed with that. And I love the images that you have there. It's kind of, you can tell you're trying to build a community and you've got people on there and really trying to engage them. So that's really cool. And
let me just say thanks to Rafi and again to Karen for drawing and designing so much of that.
yeah, and a lot of the open source projects do work in silos. So it's really encouraging to see something that's you know, a project. You know, you mentioned Launchpad.
Yeah.
There are a few out there, but it's really encouraging to see someone that's kind of bridging across the various projects to bring together, you know, all the tasks that need to be worked on and encouraging participation across all levels, not just code.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I think
Thank you.
one of the reasons that we try to reach out to all these different projects is because we're doing something kind of new. So we can't afford to, we need to get people, attract people who like the site from wherever they are. So it's on Launchpad or Google Code or GitHub or whatever.
Thanks.
I loved your message about open source is more than just code.
Yeah.
And I'm going to Portland next week to talk to students at OSU, OSL, and that was actually my intent to talk about how open source is more than just code and all the other different opportunities. And so now I'm going to refer them to your site, you know, as a way for them to, you know, find opportunities. Is there anything else that you think is important for them to know, like a message that I should pass along about your site or open source in general?
I mean, about open source in general, one of the most, I think that there is, one thing I like about our site is that non-code contributors are highlighted just in the same way as code contributors. You're part of the list of contributors, you see the same little badge on people's profiles. And I think that that's true on our site, but it's not true in the entire community. I think that there's a second classness of non-code contributions that people feel. And so I think that if you can get credible people to say that non-code stuff is important, I mean, you're not going to be able to parade in a dozen project maintainers who are all, but it'd be great if you get someone to say, I don't like writing release notes. Someone else could write them. I want to do something else. And users will see that they actually wanted to read them. Then they'll realize how important it is. As for our site, I guess I can't think of anything off the top of my head beyond this.
What I would say is, if you're a UI designer, you're a graphic designer, you have an opportunity to make a really big difference because a lot of projects need knowledge like that. Yeah, no offense. And
yeah,
although I think, Asheesh, it's true that there's that historically and maybe systemically, code is prized more than non-code contributions. If you walk around and talk to open source people and you ask them about this kind of thing, they'll all get really excited about like the UI, the need for UI, the need for people who have a sense about project management. So you're likely to make some friends pretty quickly if you know how to do UI stuff. I don't know the details, but.
And in that sense that that getting project maintainers makes the whole story so much more credible. But I think that there's sort of a shyness or a fear on the behalf of these prospective non-code contributors that their work wouldn't be valued. And in fact, it would be. The other thing is that, like, I write non-code, and I also write code. And I mostly got started, the first project I really collaborated on was Xbox Linux, where I put together a wiki with some documentation for how to modify your Xbox's software without modifying the hardware. And that was hugely valuable. And I know that, and I had a lot of fun. I think that...
Yeah, some of the documentation you came up with is now very central in the Expo Athletics website.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Sure. Yeah, and I guess like tell them to click I want to help. And also tell them to reach out to product maintainers, right? I mean, I'm talking as if product maintainers all want to spend their time reaching out to people. That's not always true. At least all I'm really doing is increasing the quality of people they would have to reach out to. But a lot of the people I've talked to who are the core developers say, I don't want to deal with more people. But then there's like second-tier developers or community support people or documentation writers, and those part of the team say, oh, we'd love more people. So basically, keep reaching out. Tell them that that's really the most important message. Yeah.
So are you doing anything to train maintainers on how to break up problems well, on how to set up decent training sets, that kind of stuff?
Not yet. I guess that would be great, though.
I have a suggestion, actually.
Yeah.
I actually came upon one of those buttons at one point, which is the I'd like to help.
Yeah.
When you click that, you feel like you're committing to something. I think if it was how can I help, more people would click it.
Okay.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
The button would say, how can I help you?
Yeah, just instead of I want to help. Less committal, because you're taking them to an information page. You're not taking them to sign up for something.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Oh, well, I guess maybe, I want to help, and then the next page they can just fill stuff in.
The point is, I didn't click I want to help,
Right.
personally, when I actually came upon it, because I felt like I was committing. And I have no idea what I'm committing to.
I mean, right now you're committing to appear in a list.
Right, I realize, so it's actually fine, but especially, mostly for the one that appears on other sites. I think it's less relevant for the one that appears on that site. Then you mean I want to help, otherwise you would be clicking it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so in our case, it actually does take you to a sign-up page. And it will register you and will put you in that list. I mean, there's a way to get out of it. But yeah, I can see what you mean about the committal nature. Any other feedback or questions?
I think what we're looking for, by the way, the Holy Grail would be a way of having a very lightweight commitment, but a commitment.
Yes.
So
yes.
Once you've made it, you're kind of like, oh, well, you've registered a sort of affiliation with the project.
Yeah, but I still think you want that after I've seen your site.
Right. It may well be.
That might be a little more transparent.
Yeah, and we could just like add a little, that should be doable.
The only other feedback I would have is that in browsing projects, on the front page, the first thing you see is the list of bugs. It'd be I think it'd be advantageous if somewhere in there was a big description of the project or a link to their main page or something that's prominent.
Right. So on the, do you mean maybe
like if you're surfing through the bite-sized bugs?
Oh yeah.
You click on it and it comes up with this nice list of bugs and.
Right.
Okay. I think like right at the top, you just had a little. This is what this project is. It would be a little bit more motivating.
Description of what OpenHatch is, or what the individual?
What the individual project is that you just clicked on.
So on this page in particular, you might imagine like you're saying that when you click on Python and look in the bugs there, we put a little box in here, for example.
Yeah. Sure. Just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, right now you have to open the bug and scroll down and find this link.
Yeah.
So we're saying
I see.
Right, because you already have that information that people have filled in what the project is about.
Yeah.
Right. Looks really cool though.
Awesome.
I like the idea. I once took a class where I was trying to do an OS project for an open source project, and I actually got a really bad grade in the class because I kept trying to find projects and failing.
Right.
It's really hard, it turns out, in the current environment.
Yeah. And the thing is that the project maintainers know so much more than you do. When they know how hard that bug is. That's why I haven't touched the Alpine Melder code. At least I'm saying. But right, but like all these bugs, they range on such a range. And so some people have asked us, how come you don't try to automatically categorize bugs? And if you maintain some code, you'll know that it's difficult to know from the title of a bug or from the description of the bug what that means in terms of the code base and how much effort it takes.
That one sentence means refactor the entire project. Yeah.
Yeah, or just it's impossible. Yeah. Were you going to say something else?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and the fact that you're using, bite size, so especially for new contributors, I think that's really important, is to have a handle on something that they feel they're going to be able to finish, and they can see something they've done, then they can move on. Otherwise, if they go into this,
Right,
can't get it done, it will not kind of encourage them to continue participating.
Yeah, and I ran an evening event at PyCon a few months ago where I just put a sign on a door and I said, if you want to contribute to an open source project and you haven't, come in this door. And it was 11 o'clock at night and we got 2 people. And so of them, we browsed the volunteer opportunity finder here and we found something to work on. And actually we all found bite-sized bugs in Python to work on. I and one other person wrote some documentation that was missing, and a third person started looking into one of these Python bite-sized bugs. And yeah, like the idea that at the end of the night, this person who had never run Subversion before could use it to generate a diff file and attach it to the bug tracker, and his patch is now merged. That's pretty cool.
Actually, that explains the other really cool thing is that, at least in that episode, you were able to get the feedback loop really small.
I
assume you were actually able to accept them and check them in.
Oh, no, I don't work on Python.
Okay.
No, so actually waited 2 or 3 weeks for the patch to get reviewed. But then it was, and then it got merged. So.
Wouldn't it be cool if you could actually get the projects to say, okay, during this week we're going to have, overnight turnaround or something.
Yeah, and to label bugs beforehand. And actually, this is one of the good things about Google Summer of Code that projects tell me. It's really nice to have all this code written over the summer, but it's only 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 students. But the project lists that projects make up, those are really valuable. Because now the projects know when someone else comes by, oh, you could do this. It would take you a summer, maybe half a summer. But we know what it would take to do it. Yeah, and so just thinking through the process of labeling bugs as bite size in the bug tracker, and then showcasing that can be really valuable.